Today's economies produce millions of tons of dangerous waste every day. Chemical, heavy metals, radioactive. The more dangerous the waste, the more expensive it is to destroy. As a result, the unscrupulous offer a cheaper alternative: to dump the waste in the third world. It's completely illegal. Italian justice will expose one of these rings. Not the only one, and definitely not the biggest, but probably the most clumsy. There are 4 people involved. The former honorary Somali consul, Ezio Scaglione. Guido Garelli, an expert in toxic waste. There's Giancarlo Marocchino, in the freight business and a key contact for the Italian army in Mogadishu. And the 4th man in the network is none other than the then president of Somalia, Ali Mahdi. In 1995, it's former President Mahdi himself who appoints Ezio Scaglione honorary consul. Scaglione will make full use of his diplomatic status to set up the toxic waste scam. He ignores the fact that a 1993 international treaty forbids the export of dangerous waste materials from Europe to the third world. Scaglione undertakes a tour of northern Italian industrial complexes. He goes door to door like a common salesman to any industry that needs to rid itself of toxic waste. Destruction is expensive, and he offers to do the job on the cheap. Among the industrialists Scaglione calls on is this man, a scrap metal merchant from the Turin region, who agrees to be interviewed if we guarantee anonymity. So they were looking for people who had waste to get rid of. Yes, their problem was that they had to look for quite a few in order to fill their ship. And how many tons could be loaded onto the ship? I don't know the exact details of the ship, but it must have been at least 10,000 tons. At $100 a ton, a single load can bring in $1 million, a substantial profit. But Scaglione raises so much dust in his rounds of industry that he begins to draw the attention of the authorities. One businessman would report the Somali honorary consul, and investigators decide to bug one of their meetings. Here are some of the recordings. I'm authorized to stock unsafe waste in this area. They've given the okay for other types of waste too. Sorry, but do you mean metal waste? No, I'm talking about other kinds of waste. Oh, right. But for now, we're just dealing with harmful types of waste. A judge in the northern Italian town of Asti leads the inquiry. He authorizes the phone tapping over several months of suspected members of the network. Scaglione's role was to collect the waste. That's what he himself told the industrialists that he met. He also said that what he was doing was entirely legal. However, the point was that at the time, Somalia was a country that couldn't legally import such sorts of waste, whatever documentation he provided. These days, Scaglione is no longer a Somali honorary consul. He's associated with Masonic and Templar organizations and is the self-proclaimed head of a phantom state, Navaza, a tiny island off the coast of Haiti. It effectively exists only on the internet. The interview with the self-styled Prince of Navaza focuses on his diplomatic career. If your country is recognized and you become the head of state, then you'd have diplomatic immunity. Yes, as would any head of state. You've held a diplomatic post, haven't you? Yes, but that was a long time ago. You were Somali honorary consul. For 4 years, yes. And it was the president himself who appointed you. Yes. And who was the president in those days? It was Ali Mahdi. So he made you a Somali honorary consul. Yes, but that's got nothing to do with Navaza, though. Now, there are some people who say that you use this diplomatic role to bring toxic waste into Somalia. Is that true? I have no idea what you're talking about. Absolutely none. Oh, so you just don't want to talk about it, or you don't know what I'm talking about? I'm sticking to what I said at the start, and I'm not going to move from that. So you don't want to talk about it? But as I said, I can talk to you about Navaza, but that's all. So you don't want to drag up past activities, only your present role. Of course. The Prince of Navaza will reveal nothing further. His business partner at the time was Giancarlo Marocchino, a shipping agent. He controlled the port in the north of Mogadishu. At the time, Marocchino had been living in Somalia for more than 10 years. He knew the warlords, was an informer for the Italian army, had won several construction contracts, and peddled favors and influence. It was Marocchino who provided the access to Ali Mahdi, the Somali president. He claimed he could get presidential authorization to import toxic waste. On the phone, he urged Scaglione the need to act with guile.
Tramite operatore non è possibile farlo da Somalia, non c'è nessun genere di collegamento, devi farlo con questi numeri qua che sono 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 numeri.
For his part, Scaglione feared the conversation was being recorded. I'd need to make it seem that what we're doing is building an incinerator. Yeah, of course, I understand. And we need to appear to be doing this for the benefit of the country, as a means of generating energy. Of course, that goes without saying. It's obvious. We need to take that approach to avoid problems, because if a journalist were to discover this, then they'd use it to accuse us of... No, stop, not on the phone, Okay, boss. After hesitating for a long time, Giancarlo Marocchino finally agreed to meet with us. To avoid talking out of turn, he's brought his lawyer along. While they can't deny the audio recordings, they put a completely different spin on the evidence. He was Somalia's honorary consul, after all.
L'onorario della Somalia, Scaglione. Era consul onorario della Somalia.
He was honorary consul. It was a meaningless title. It's only valid in Piedmont. He used it to make a bit of money. They created a network to export toxic waste to Somalia, though. No, there was no network. There was talk. Yes, I'll do this, you send that. There was a lot of that kind of thing. But let me tell you, it was just to make a bit of money. It was like a fraud, a scheme. We'd take the money up front and then say, sorry, I couldn't do anything, the material couldn't be shipped, or we'd figure out some kind of excuse. It's like a scam. The way it works is, I offer to do something for you, you pay me in advance to do it, but in the end it doesn't work out, and in the meantime I've made 20 or 30,000. The Italian Judicial inquiry establishes the same president of Somalia, Ali Mahdi, was to receive his share, 35% of the profits. Today, Ali Mahdi is no longer president of Somalia. He lives in Nairobi, the comfortable capital of Kenya, and refuses to speak to journalists. He does, however, insist that the evidence implicating him is false. And yet it was the official authorization issued from the presidential office in 1996 that finally permitted the import of dangerous and toxic waste. Ezio Scaglione received the approval, and the operation seems to have been set in stone. Guido Garelli is an adventurer, half Serb, half Italian, with an array of passports and identities. His name figures on several documents involving the shipment of toxic waste to Africa. He's also spent about a dozen years in prison. He was another who enjoyed the confidence of the Somali president and participated in some of the network's activities. How often did you visit Somalia? About 10 times. Do you have any dealings with Ali Mahdi? Yes, quite a few. Was he the one who authorized the toxic waste to be sent to Somalia? No, I don't think it was him. The authorizations were verbal. But there is a document. Oh, that, the famous document. No, what's a fake then? No, it's not a fake, exactly, the document. It's just badly worded. Very badly worded.
Mal concepito, è stato un documento assolutamente mal concepito.
And yet in his dealings with Italian businessmen, Scaglione claims to have the full backing of the Somali president, including for the shipment of radioactive waste, the most dangerous of all. As for the radioactive waste, I've already said I have verbal authorization, which doesn't count for much, but it does show they're willing to consider it. But is there any organization down there that would control all of this on the ground? The president is the one who checks this stuff. So he's the boss. Oh yes, really. The value of the authorization is that it comes from the highest source. It's certainly the audio recording that most embarrasses the network. If you listen to it, you realize it's the entrepreneur who makes the proposal, not Scaglione. But Scaglione doesn't exactly refuse it. Precisely. It was a mistake. But it's not a mistake. A mistake is when you get it wrong. He's using his position as honorary consul to deal in the traffic of radioactive waste. Yes, but it's a mistake. Faced with the damning evidence of the recordings, the honorary consul decides to spill the beans and betrays his former associate, Marocchino. He says Marocchino planned to hide the radioactive waste in huge containers, such as this one. Containers that were to be buried in the jetty of a port he was building in North Mogadishu. Italian justice, in evidence, used amateur photos showing metal containers buried in the concrete. Were they full of radioactive material, as Scaglione claims? Today, the port is out of bounds. It's in the hands of Al-Qaeda's Islamist militias. It's all lies. He had some serious problems. I'm not sure, but maybe someone told him, if you confess to this, we can help you.
Dici queste cose e noi ti salviamo di questi problemi. Io non lo so.
After all, a ship that arrives fully laden with waste off the coast of Somalia, what's it going to do? Enter a port? Offload the barrels? And the barrels would just be dumped at sea and that's it. So where's the problem? Huge amounts of waste arrived in Somalia. What kind of waste? All kinds. All kinds. I'm sticking my neck out here, but I doubt a single barrel of waste ever made it to Mogadishu. What about elsewhere? Maybe further north, I don't know.